On a preview appointment of an expired, after the home tour, I asked if I could provide feedback. The seller said, "Are you going to tell me things like the previous realtor said to me?" And I could tell he was putting up a wall. How should I have responded? So, Steve here.
Yes.
Awesome. What's up, Steve? How's it going?
Hey, it's good. Thanks, Brandon.
Yeah. So, great question. What I would have done when I read this question before, the first thing I would have done would I always try to seek first to understand. You've probably heard that a thousand times in your life. So what did you actually say? Let's talk about what actually happened, and then I can share with you what tweaks I would have made. So when he said that to you, what did you say?
So we'd already done the home tour, walked through it, had a really good conversation. Things were going really good. Super nice guy, just great conversation. I figured out kind of motivation where he was at, what his plan was. And we were kind of down in the basement. And at that point, I just asked, would you like some feedback from kind of the notes that I took during our home tour? And then that's when he said, "Oh yeah, you're going to tell me, about the paint needs to be touched up here and the hardwood floors here." And I could see him kind of, sticking his chest out a little bit and kind of getting that posture of like, look, I've sold homes before, and this and that. So I was kind of like, yeah, then I just kind of came like, yeah, I understood. That's why, I wrote some notes down before coming, but now that we've talked, I understand why some of the hardwood floors weren't done, and I understood some of that. So and that's kind of, and then I think we just kind of went off to it on a different tangent after that.
Was the meeting over, or were you able to get into the CMA? Were you able to get into a presentation at all, or no?
No. I just left him with some of the stuff, and I just left him with some items and thought maybe it'd just be best for him to review it on his own, kind of some of the notes that I had.
So this is a great question. All right, Steve. So we have a choice to make when a prospect confronts us, especially in listing property. If an agent, whether you or somebody else, if an agent hasn't listed a lot of homes, that conflict, what we need to be able to do is we need to stand firm in that conflict with the seller, and we have to be able to confront the seller in a way that's respectful and not retreat from the conflict. In listing properties, what I have learned is that the better you are at confronting the seller in a way that is respectful, the more the more respect they have for you in return. But what I mean by that is specifically is this. So if you and I were role playing this, Steve, I would have said, "Well, I don't know. Let me ask you this. I mean, when you had because the reason I ask you this, Steve, is what feedback did the other agent give you?" And you would have told me what you would have just told me. And then I would have said to you, the reason I ask you that is this. Most of the time, if a house in today's market, which is the best real estate market we've ever seen in the history of the world ever, and a house like yours comes in the marketplace and doesn't sell, most of the time it's because the past realtor wasn't able to tell you the truth. So when you ask me, is it going to be the same thing the other realtor told me? Steve, I would probably tell you absolutely not. It's going to be completely new information, because here we are having this conversation around what's keeping your home from selling that the other agent didn't bring up. Your home didn't not sell because of the wood floors. Your home didn't not sell because you didn't paint this wall or paint that wall. Did the agent give you any other feedback while the house was listed? That's how I would have handled that question. I would have confronted you. I would have not retreated, because he's frustrated because he's got the problem. When we retreat, we make his problem our problem. And his problem is that he has to sell this home. Our job is to do that, is to solve the problem. And we have to face sellers. We have to meet sellers where they're at. So if a seller, Steve, is frustrated, let's share in the frustration with them. This, to me, is when I say strategic empathy, that is what I mean. Strategic empathy is not retreating and say, "Oh, I feel so bad for you." That's not strategic empathy. That's a total retreat. That's like a parachute pull. So we've got to meet the seller where they're at. Same thing's on the phone. you call an expired listing, Steve, and they're all pissed off at you, you stand right up and you face them. You say, listen, I get it. If I was you, I'd be pissed off too. Quite frankly, that's how that, when I say meet sellers where they're at, that's what I mean. And so when I read this, I thought that's what you meant, but I would have not retreated. That would have been the thing I would have done differently.
Sure.
And so that seller needs a strong agent. Sounds like he might be some type of driver personality. I don't know for sure. He needs a strong, confident agent to help him, guide him through this,
Gotcha. Yeah, good.
Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah.
I think what we do, as I'll leave you with this last thing, I think what we do too quickly is when we look to retreat, because somehow in our mind, we justify that taking that approach will help us somehow save the opportunity or not risk the opportunity. Tell me what your thoughts are on that.
So I think I was kind of going along lines of this agreeable, right? From your kind of coaching, like, hey, let's be agreeable to what they're saying, right? Like, you know what? I totally get where you're coming from. I understand like your frustration. So I did kind of that agreeable part, but then from there, I couldn't quite bring it back to how to kind of, push forward through that and get kind of my notes, across, or kind of, so I kind of felt like I was being agreeable. And when he started to kind of put up a little bit, I could tell that he wasn't quite ready to hear what I wanted to present. So that's when, yes, I kind of started like I avoided it, right? Just kind of, like you said, retreated. So I felt agreeable. I understand where you're coming from, but then I couldn't take it in that direction that, that you're kind of saying right now.
All right, let me help you with that. So it's funny because I know you're newer to our program. And so when you're learning to be agreeable, how we build rapport is by going deep with people. Like I'm going to try to go with you right now, right? So like, yes, you want to be agreeable. The next step in communicating is then asking people questions. We worked on this on Thursday. So like any type of resistance, yes, we absolutely want to be agreeable. Listen, I understand how you feel. If I was in that shoes, I would feel the exact same way. If I was you, I'd be frustrated that the house didn't sell. The next thing out of your mouth has got to be a question that leads that person to open up more, to go deeper. So with this situation that we're talking about, if you're saying, listen, what do you role play it with me a little bit? I want you to hear what it sounds like, because I don't want to. You said the seller is going to. Okay, so let's role play. I want you to do your best acting job in the tonality that this person had, right? So we're done with the home tour. I say, Steven, I took some notes while we were walking through the property. I did a little bit of homework before I came over. Do you mind if I share my thoughts with you before I leave?
Oh, I'm sure you're going to tell me all the things the previous realtor had already told me about the paint touch up, the hardwood floors need to be redone. I already know what you're going to say.
Yeah, I love it. Listen, I was going to actually share some completely new information with you, but I am curious. Tell me, what did the other agent tell you about why the home didn't sell? And the reason I ask you that, Steve, is because you and I both would agree the real estate market that we're in today is arguably the best we've ever seen in the history of the world. Would you agree?
I would agree, yeah.
Yet we're here having a meeting and your home has not sold. So what did the agent share with you why they thought the home didn't sell?
Gosh. Really not much. We only had a few people go through. We didn't get a lot of feedback from it.
Yeah, fair enough. And based on what you just told me, the assumption that, the other agent was telling you about the paint and the floors, the things that you just mentioned weren't even on my list. Can I tell you why?
Yeah, I've sold a few homes before, so I kind of know, I've got a credit out there for $10,000 for the floors. So when people walk in, they see the floors, I really don't want to hear it. I've got a credit, I can get them taken care of. So I've sold a few homes before. That's, I know I'm going to sell this on my own. If it takes me 2 years, that's fine.
Yeah, beautiful. And the fact that you've done this on your own, as well as I do, it's not the floors keeping the home from selling, is it?
No.
What is it?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't ask him that, but I see where
No,
you're
no,
going
no.
with
Let's
it.
keep role playing. You see where we're going? This is
Yeah.
called the Socratic method. This is how you confront a seller where they're like, fuck, I don't know shit. You just keep asking and asking and asking, because the person with the huge ego has to get exposed at some point in time, especially that seller who knows it all, who's done this all before. They haven't sold the house. They haven't won. They haven't succeeded. They have no offer. You're sitting there at their house. Isn't that ironic? So what we have to do, we don't have to present anything. We don't have to say anything. All we have to do, Stephen, is just keep asking questions, right? Just keep asking questions. And in your specific case with an expired listing, it's all getting their feedback about what has occurred. Why are we at this meeting? What do we think needs to change in order for us not to be at this meeting? What it needs to change in order for us to get this property sold? You know, what needs to change, or what do you need to hear that might make sense for us to potentially have a working relationship? What are you looking for in an agent to help you through this process? What were you frustrated with before, right? How long would you try to sell this house on your own before you'd be looking at other options? You know, what do you have to see from me where you might be open to having a conversation? You see, all these are questions. None of them were statements. And so all of those are leading us to have a dialogue for you to open up. The second I start to try to tell you something is I play right into your strategy where you're absolutely in control. That's why I'm not using any statements. I'm just going to ask questions. When I do that, you have to be the clever one to come up with all the answers. You with me on that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So next time you find yourself in a situation, regardless of situation, just ask yourself, okay, how can I stay agreeable and ask this person another question before I pull the parachute, before I retreat? How can I ask them another question to dig deeper, to really understand where they're coming from? That's real rapport. Like that's when you can really have a breakthrough with somebody. You know how many agents this guy probably scared off? You know, that other agent was probably too scared of him to tell him the truth that the house was overpriced, you know?
Sure.
And with that, I'll leave you with one last thought, because Steve, I know we haven't spent that much time together. I'm going to leave you with this one last thing. When it comes to price, which is why the house didn't sell, right? I always love to ask the ego type sellers this question. I say, Steve, let me just ask you. I mean, there are so many amateur agents, so many that will come into this house and tell you everything you want to hear. Okay. I don't know that that's what happened before. All I know is that the house didn't sell and we're having this conversation now. I can do one of two things. Regardless if we end up working together, I can leave you with the truth that will help you get this property sold, or I can bullshit you. Knowing you now, I'm assuming you only want the truth. Am I right?
Correct.
Are you open to having an honest and open conversation? Be honest, because I can take it either way.
Yes.
Now you can see the confidence, who's stronger. This is how I deal in conflict, with respect. I'm getting your permission, but I'm telling you, I'm not scared of you. You know, like I'm going to hold my ground. You're dealing with a real professional. And this is how we have the human connection. You with me on that?
Stuff. Yeah. Good stuff. Thank you.
Yeah, that's how we command big money. This is who people want to work with. They don't want to work with order takers, believe me.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it.
No problem, Steve. Good stuff.